Snow fell softly over the small town of Willow Creek, Montana, wrapping the streets in silence on Christmas Eve.
Need a hand?
Most shops were
Yes,
closing
please,
early,
thank you.
their windows
I'm on
glowing
it.
with warm lights and holiday
Bless you.
decorations. Families hurried home, laughing, their arms full of gifts. Near the old grocery store, however, stood a woman who didn't belong to that picture. Her name was Lena Harper, and she held the hands of her two children, 7-year-old Mia and 4-year-old Noah. Their coats were worn, their shoes thin, and their breaths formed shaky clouds in the freezing air. Lena had lost everything in the past year. Her husband had died in a construction accident in Texas, and medical bills quickly swallowed what little savings they had. She moved from state to state, chasing temporary work, but winter came faster than hope. By the time she reached Willow Creek, she had nowhere left to go. Christmas Eve was never supposed to look like this. Across the street, Ethan Cole, the town's richest rancher, stepped out of his pickup truck. Ethan owned thousands of acres of land and one of the largest cattle ranches in the county. People knew him as quiet, serious, and distant. He rarely joined town events and lived alone in his massive ranch house on the edge of town. Some said he was cold-hearted. Others said he was proud. Few knew the truth, that Ethan had learned long ago not to depend on anyone. As Ethan locked his truck, his eyes fell on the woman and children. Something about the way Mia tried to stand bravely while Noah leaned into his mother's side made him stop. He remembered another winter, many years ago, when he had been a boy with no one to protect him. The memory hit harder than the cold. Ethan crossed the street, boots crunching in the snow. "Ma'am," he said gently, careful not to scare them. "Are you folks all right?" Lena hesitated. She was used to judgment, to people looking through her instead of at her. "We're fine," she replied softly, though her shaking hands told a different story. Ethan noticed. He always did. "There's a storm coming," he said. "This isn't a good night to be outside." Before Lena could answer, a few townspeople slowed their steps, watching. They recognized Ethan and whispered among themselves. A rich man speaking to a homeless woman on Christmas Eve was bound to cause gossip. "I have a ranch not far from here," Ethan continued. "You and your kids can stay the night. Just until the storm passes." Lena's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from disbelief. "Sir, I can't." "You can," he said firmly but kindly. "No one should spend Christmas Eve out in the cold." The children looked up at their mother, hope flickering in their eyes. Lena finally nodded, her voice barely audible. "Thank you." As they walked toward Ethan's truck, the whispers grew louder. People shook their heads, mocking him quietly. But Ethan didn't look back. For the first time in years, he felt his lonely house might finally feel like a home. The drive to Ethan Cole's ranch was quiet, except for the soft hum of the heater and the sound of wind pushing snow against the truck. Lena sat stiffly in the passenger seat, still unsure if this was real or just a moment of kindness that would disappear as quickly as it came. In the back, Mia and Noah pressed their faces to the window, eyes wide as endless white fields stretched past them. They had never seen a place so big, so open, or so peaceful. When the ranch house came into view, it stood tall and warm against the dark sky. Yellow light glowed from its windows, cutting through the snow like a promise. Ethan parked near the front porch and quickly helped the children out of the truck. The cold bit hard, but inside the house, warmth wrapped around them instantly. A fireplace crackled in the living room, and the smell of wood and coffee filled the air. Ethan handed Lena a stack of clean towels and spare clothes. "Bathrooms down the hall," he said. "Take your time." His voice was calm, without pity, and that made all the difference. Lena hadn't felt this kind of respect in a long time. As Lena helped the children change, Ethan prepared a simple meal. He wasn't used to cooking for anyone but himself, yet something about the quiet responsibility felt right. Soon, the kitchen filled with the sound of spoons clinking and children whispering in excitement. Noah laughed when he burned his tongue on hot soup, and Ethan found himself smiling without realizing it. After dinner, they gathered by the fire. The children sat on a thick rug, warming their hands, while Lena sat carefully on the couch, still unsure how long this peace would last. The house, once silent and empty, now felt alive. The walls seemed to breathe again. Lena finally spoke. She told Ethan about her husband, about losing her job, about sleeping in cars and shelters. Her voice trembled, but she didn't cry. She had learned to be strong for her children. Ethan listened without interrupting. He didn't offer advice or judgment, only attention. And for Lena, that mattered more than anything. Outside, snow fell heavier, covering the road back to town. Ethan stood by the window for a moment, knowing people would talk. They always did. Some would say he was being careless. Others would say he was trying to look noble. None of them knew the truth. When he turned back, he saw Mia carefully placing a small, dusty Christmas ornament on a tiny tree in the corner of the room, one Ethan hadn't bothered to decorate in years. Noah clapped his hands, proud of their work. Lena's eyes softened, and for the first time that night, she allowed herself to relax. Ethan felt something shift inside him. This wasn't charity. This was connection. And as the fire burned low and the storm raged outside, he realized that this Christmas Eve was already different from every one before it. Christmas morning arrived quietly at the ranch, the storm having wrapped the land in a thick blanket of untouched snow. Sunlight slipped through the windows, reflecting off the white fields and filling the house with a soft glow. For the first time in years, Ethan Cole woke to the sound of movement instead of silence. Small footsteps padded down the hallway, followed by excited whispers that quickly turned into laughter. Mia and Noah stood in front of the Christmas tree, their eyes wide with wonder. During the night, Ethan had placed a few simple gifts beneath it, nothing expensive, just warm clothes, books, and toys he had picked up from a nearby store he owned but rarely visited. To the children, it felt like magic. Lena watched from the doorway, her hands covering her mouth as tears finally fell. Not tears of fear or exhaustion, but of relief. They shared breakfast together at the long wooden table. Sunlight danced across steaming mugs and plates of fresh eggs and bread. The conversation was easy, natural, as if they had known each other for years. Ethan noticed how naturally the children filled the space, how the house no longer felt too big or empty. He hadn't realized how lonely he had been until that loneliness was gone. Later that morning, Ethan surprised Lena with an offer. He explained that the ranch needed help, honest work with fair pay. He also knew the school principal in town and could help enroll the children after the holidays. Lena tried to speak, but her voice failed her. She had expected one night of shelter, not a future. When she finally found her words, all she could say was, "Thank you." Ethan shook his head gently. "Everyone deserves a chance," he replied. News traveled fast in Willow Creek. At first, people were shocked. The same man they had mocked on Christmas Eve was now helping a struggling family rebuild their lives. Some felt ashamed. Others felt inspired. Slowly, attitudes changed. Smiles replaced whispers when Ethan drove into town with the kids in his truck. As weeks turned into months, the ranch transformed. Laughter echoed through its halls, and life returned to places long forgotten. The children thrived in school, and Lena worked hard, earning not just a paycheck but respect. Ethan found himself teaching Noah how to care for the horses and helping Mia with her homework by the fire. One evening, as snow began to fall again, Mia hugged Ethan tightly and called him, Uncle Ethan, for the first time. He didn't correct her. He didn't need to. That Christmas Eve, the town thought Ethan had taken in strangers. In truth, he had found the family he never knew he was missing, and the greatest gift of all.